2 years ago, I started working with an online fitness coach who honestly never made an online sale. He'd spent years working in construction, working in mines in Australia, and as he told me himself on a call, he could barely turn on a laptop. Now, in our first year, we took him from 0 all the way up to 32 clients, and he did about $47,000 in his first year of coaching. But today's video is telling you how we took him from $47,000 to $101,000 in his second year, because what gets you your first 30 clients and gets the ball rolling is not the thing that takes you to 6 figures. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. And if you're currently stuck at 2, 3, 4, 5K a month and you feel like you're constantly working, you're constantly hustling, but things are not growing, then today's video is going to be really, really valuable for you. So firstly, the start point. My client had finished his first year quite well. We worked together for about 9 months in the first year, and in that 9 months, he got up to 32 online clients. Now, the problem was in that first year, we'd relied very heavily on just getting sales activity done, starting conversations, making offers, and using his referrals and his warm network. And we hadn't built a whole lot of leverage because his priority was just get the business off the ground, get money coming in. And so by the end of that first 9 months in year 1, he had 32 clients, but he had pretty much no leverage. And he was a little bit capped at 47K per year. And he felt like he didn't have the time, he didn't have the energy, he didn't really have the ability or the skill set to get to that next level. And so in year 2, we focused on 3 big moves. So 3 strategic core moves that doubled his business over the next 12 months. And I'm going to share those moves with you now. And then I'm going to share a lesson, a really important lesson from those moves, because one of the things that you need to do is you need to make moves, whether these are the right moves for you to make right now, but you need to make moves in the right order. That's really, really important. So we'll look at that a little bit further on. And the exact moves we make here might not be the exact moves that you need to make, but they should help you to identify what moves you can make and at what point you should make the move. So make sure that you take some notes and you lock in. First move, you've heard this before, but specificity. So getting your first 30 odd clients, you can really just work with anyone. And you can work within your warm network, you can work within referrals, you can work within friends and friends of friends and everything else. But as you kind of tap out or you go through that warm network and you kind of use up all of the opportunities that are there, you need to become more specific, okay? And specificity is what cuts through the noise, particularly in 2026. Most coaches, let's be real, they all sound the same. They're saying the same stuff. It's boring. And all of the stuff that you're creating content-wise, everyone has heard before. They know about protein, they know about creatine, they know about calorie deficits, they know they should be going to the gym 3 to 5 times per week, they know about the 7 to 9 hour sleep. All of the stuff that coaches are spouting out now has no specificity attached to it. And that is why people are struggling. They're managing to get their first few online clients. They're managing to get the ball rolling, but they can't seem to grow or build a business off the back of that. They kind of seem to just pick up a few here and there, and it keeps them tipping along, but it doesn't actually grow the business. And for the most part, specificity is the reason that they're stuck. So their content sounds very generic. And when we talk about specificity, we need to get really, really clear on 3 things. We need to get clear on the who, the what, and the how. And once we're clear on those 3 things, we package that in the why, which is our story. So in my client's case, we looked at all of the clients that he was working with, and we looked at the clients that he seemed to get the best results for. And as I said, he used to work in construction and he used to work in the mines. And so he had friends in Australia who also worked in the mines. And if you know anything about working in the mines in Australia, it's pretty crazy. You do 12-hour days, I think 6 days a week, and you work for 3 weeks, and then you have a couple of weeks off, or you have a week off. So it's this very intense schedule with not a lot of time off and eating from canteen food, so like pre-prepared food, which is very likely not the healthiest. A lot of alcohol, a lot of drinking after work. So very, very poor lifestyle for health and fitness in general, difficult. A lot of time spent underground without sunlight, and also sitting in diggers, driving and stuff. So it can be quite sedentary for some people. So this is a really difficult environment for people to get in shape. And my client is a fitness coach, so that's what he fundamentally does. He gets people fitter and healthier. But it was a really difficult environment for people to get in shape. But he noticed, because he'd worked in the mines before and he had the background in construction and he had a background in, eating all of the food and drinking all of the drinks and having the crack with the lads, that he understood the difficulties and the challenges that these people face. So our first move was to get more specific and to start tailoring his content towards those people. Now, another thing about those people is they have a bigger budget, okay? So they actually make more money and they have a pain that is very difficult to solve. They have a problem that is hard to solve. And so when you have a demographic of people who have a painful problem that's hard to solve and they earn good money, that's a really good person for you to be targeting. And so we got clear on these people: construction workers, mine workers, lads who were going out doing a hard day's work. And that was the kind of people that we started to tailor his content and his offers to. So people talk about niching, and niching is really just picking a subsection. And it wasn't that we said no to everybody else, but we just started tailoring his content and his offers to attract more of those people. So that was the first thing. The what was we actually designed his program around these people specifically. So we designed it around this very challenging, very difficult lifestyle, and we positioned him as the guy who gets results and is the specialist for these kinds of workers. The how was obviously the delivery of how he delivered his coaching. And we got very clear on that, like how would the check-ins work? Because these guys, again, they're working 12-hour days, things work different. And most of the coaching experiences they might have tried before weren't tailored to them, and so they didn't work. So we had to get very, very clear on what we're helping them with, and then how we're actually doing that. Like, how are they managing their food when they eat from the canteen? How are they managing their check-ins? How are they managing their training when they work 12-hour days? How are they getting enough sleep? How are they getting enough recovery? How are they managing a very alcohol-fueled social life and environment when they're not working? And then finally, once we were clear on all of these things, we got clear on the why. Like, why was he doing this? Why did it make sense for him to be the coach? And for him, this was his story. And this ties back into your personal brand. Your specificity should not come from looking at a piece of paper and being like, oh, I'm going to choose to work with dentists because they have a budget. Your specificity, who you work with, what you do for them, how you do it, should tie into your own story, because that gives you a strong why. It should be something that you have personal experience of, or something that you care deeply about because of some other reason or some other experience that you've had. So, maybe you work with pregnant women and you're a guy, so you don't have experience of being a pregnant woman, but maybe it's because when you saw your girlfriend being pregnant, or your wife being pregnant, or your mum being pregnant, you saw how difficult it was for them to manage health and fitness and to know if they could go to the gym and train. So you might not have experience being that person yourself, but you might have experience of seeing that person's struggles in your own life. And so that is how you package that all together in a way that actually converts. So your content converts, people listen, they trust you, your offers convert, people want to be part of them, and then your offers get more specific and people reach out to you because you have solutions that nobody else has because you're specific. That was move one. Now, the really cool thing about move one was that move one opened up doors that were no longer, or that were previously not available. So move two was to start partnerships within this specific group, or this specific environment, or this specific avatar of people, right? And so because my client got very specific on who he was and how he helped them, he then was able to do partnerships. So he'd previously worked in construction and mining and all of these companies. He had contacts there. And he also knew that he could help the employees of these companies be fitter, healthier, more energized, have better mental well-being. And from a company standpoint, what do they want? They want less sick days. They want workers who are more engaged with their work. They want workers who show up and give 100%. And particularly in something like mining, where there can be a lot of physical labor, and especially with alcohol and all of that kind of stuff, having employees with good physical and mental well-being is super, super valuable for the company. And so we started to make moves and make inquiries about how we could actually partner with some of these companies. And we got access to databases. So we got access to emails. When my client was running offers or launches, he was able to actually directly send that on to the company, and then they would forward that on to their list, their database of emails. They would mention it to people. He would get referrals, and he basically got access to free marketing channels of his ideal client that he would not have got access to otherwise, or he would have to have paid for, because he didn't run any paid ads the entire time we worked together. No paid ads. And he got to 6 figures completely organically by utilizing these moves. Now, the final thing here is he had the ability to sell to many. So, over here at the start of his journey to get to 32 clients, he was selling one-to-one all of the time. So it was sales calls, it was sales conversations, it was chats, it was in-person conversations, one-to-one, one-to-one, one-to-one. But here he started to get more leverage, right? He started to create leverage by having other people using marketing channels for him, by getting to sell to many people. So instead of selling to one people or one person, he could just sell to the owner of the company, and then the owner of the company would go and sell to all of the employees on his behalf. And there was aligned incentives. Okay, so for both of the guys, the company owner and my coach client, the incentives were aligned. They both want to get people fitter, healthier, and for my client, obviously he wants more clients and he wants to work with the right people and he wants to have an impact and make a change. But for the company owner, they want less sick days, they want more engaged employees, and they want basically a better bottom line as a result of having better employees. So move 2 was only available because of move 1. And once we had move 2 locked in and we had partnerships that were generating us consistent traffic, consistent lead flow, we had loads of opportunities to make sales, that was when we really notched things up, and we implemented move 3, which I'm going to flip over for you now. So move 3 is one of the most important moves anyone can make in any business ever, and that is to improve your economics. So our third move was improved economics in my client's business. Now, economics is a term we all hear, but economics actually means it is the science or the study of the allocation of scarce resources. So really, it just comes down to, I don't have enough of something for all of the things that I want to do. How do I allocate that thing? And in the case of my client, there were 3 resources that were scarce and that we had to allocate better, or we had to make less scarce in order for his business to grow. And these 3 resources were time, money, and energy or focus, whatever you want to call that. So resource number 1 is pretty obvious, time. With 32 clients, how do you grow without having your time swallowed up? And my client went from 32, so he doubled his revenue, but he didn't actually double his client base. He added about 20 more clients. So he went from 32 clients to about 51, 52 clients, but he still doubled his income and his revenue, and I'll explain how that happened. But the first thing that we did was we revisited his model, because he was close to capacity with 32 clients, and we had to figure out how can we take on more clients without draining more time, because he didn't have more time to give. And so what we did was we looked at his model, and his model is basically the delivery, how his business is set up, how he works with clients. And we went from a one-to-one coaching model as the only option to implementing what's called an access level offer. And the access level offer is basically a tiered delivery system. So if somebody works with you and they want to work one-to-one, that is your top tier of pricing and coaching. If somebody wants to work with you one-to-one, but they get less of your one-to-one time, they get less access, then it's a slightly reduced rate. And if they want something that's group-based, that is a reduced rate again. And when you have different access tiers or different levels of access available for different price points, it means that you can have a top tier which is optimized for profit, where most of the people are working very closely with you, but the pricing is quite high. And then you can have a lower tier, which is more of a group-based tier, which is what we implemented for this client. And that group-based tier is there for retention, lifetime value. So somebody who's done a 14 or 16 week program and has had a great result, instead of having to recommit to one-to-one, they can drop down, they can join the group because they've got most of the tools that they need, and then they can actually stay for a lot longer. And so we improved his lifetime value as well, not only the money that we made in the year, but also how long people stayed, so that further or future years will continue to be stronger and stronger and stronger. So that was the first thing we did. We changed his model, we changed his delivery, we changed how often he was having calls with people. We changed how he was checking in. We changed how he could offer something that was group, that was valuable, that people would stay in for. We basically gave him a way to serve more clients at once and to maintain more clients at once without having all of his time swallowed up. The second thing that we did was we looked at resource number 2, which was money, and this was his pricing. So pricing is one of the most powerful levers you can pull in your business, and a lever is, the thing that gives us leverage. If you think of anything that you do in your business that gets you back time, money, or energy and focus, that's creating leverage. Okay, so leverage is getting more out of less effectively. And these are the 3 core kind of resource currencies of an online coach. But money is a really important one. And particularly when you have a model that allows for a much higher price point, because what most people get wrong is they only have one price point. And then, if they raise it too much, lots of people can't join and they lose lots of potential customers and sales. But if you have a model that has a higher price point and a lower price point, you can actually then push the higher price point higher, because even the people who can't sign up to the higher price point, there is a fallback option for them as well, so you don't just lose everyone. So the second thing that we did was we really pushed his pricing up on the top tier so that the people who are working closely one-to-one with him got a really great service because he's a brilliant coach, but they paid a lot more money because they had a bigger budget, they were more committed, and fundamentally he had less availability than he had demand. So more people wanted him because of the work that we'd done on the specificity and the partnerships. He had more clients wanting to work with him than he could handle, and that allowed him to push his prices up because he had people asking all of the time. And so that pricing became a really powerful lever to pull, where the top tier pricing went way up. There was still a lower tier that basically allowed people to join if they didn't have the budget for the top tier. It also allowed clients who had been in the business for a while to stay, and it just increased his retention, it increased his lifetime value, it increased how easy it was for him to get yeses, because even if people said no to the top tier, he still had a downsell offer for them in the bottom tier. And then resource number 3 was just his energy and focus. Okay, so like when you're manually managing 50 odd clients, even with a really great model, you need systems and you need delivery. So, we implemented all sorts of basic systems just to take control of admin, to take control of lead generation. So small things like systemizing his lead generation, systemizing his lead magnets, systemizing his setup of how his social media would funnel, from one post to a next step, and just kind of systemizing that whole process from stranger to client. And then also those back-end processes of just the admin and how to manage the business and what to track and what to stay on top of and the numbers that he needed to know, so that instead of being all over the place doing a million things, he could focus his energy and his focus on the things that were important. And a part of this came from the delivery as well. Okay, so some energy and focus was freed up by the model, and then also the pricing allowed him to free up energy and focus because he knew where to allocate his one-to-one time to the people who were paying for his one-to-one time, and then the people who were not, obviously they got support that they paid for, but they weren't getting tons of extra time where, he's very hands-on with every single client, and every client has the opportunity for more hands-on support if they want, and everyone still had a good level of actual direct coaching from him. Everyone was happy, his retention was great, his results were great, but he just set it up in a way where he had more of these 3 resources for himself. And by the end of the implementation of these 3 moves, the business effectively doubled, and he did 101k in 2025, and the business is continuing to grow. So the lesson here that I want you to take away, this is kind of like the strategic lesson, is that moves unlock moves, and the order matters. Because if we think about this was only available. Improving the economics was available because he had lots of leads, he had lots of interested people. We would struggle to improve the economics if there was nobody there to buy the service, right? We would struggle to have a model that would cater for high and low if we didn't have people coming in. We would struggle to increase our prices if we didn't have demand for our service. And we would struggle with systems and delivery because if we don't have people coming in, then we don't have enough stuff to systemize. So this, which is arguably the most important move in any business, only really gets unlocked if you're clear on who specifically you're helping, how you're helping them, what you do and why you do it. And if you can sort out your traffic and your lead generation. Now, in the case of my client, we use partnerships to sort out traffic and lead generation. But for me, I use partnerships, I use paid traffic, I use organic, I use a bunch of different things working together. Some of my clients are fully organic, some of my clients are fully paid. I have clients doing 10K a month and it's all coming from paid advertising. I have clients doing 10K a month, all coming directly from organic social media. I have clients doing 10K a month with a combination of both. So like, the order matters. And the way that the moves might look slightly different for different people, but you need to know what order to do what move in. And if you're just doing a bunch of random stuff and hoping for the best, you never actually get this compounding forward movement. And business is like chess. You need to be thinking 2, 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. You need to know what phase you're in right now, what you're solving right now, and why that's important and how it builds into the next thing. So hopefully this was a useful video. If this resonated, if you're stuck at 3, 4, maybe even 5K per month, I can help you double it. I've done it for enough people. You can go to my Instagram page or my testimonials channel. You'll see tons and tons of testimonials, video, written, everything. Tons and tons of proof there and how it works. So I can help you double it. If you're ready for that, if you'd like to see what it looks like, I'll happily talk you through it. Just reach out on any channel. Tell me you watched this video and I'll walk you through the exact steps and the next 3 moves you need to make to double your business.